Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this will be my third podcast with my good friend Dennis at Black Tie Kitchen. Now, Dennis and I spend about 2 or 3 hours each week chatting it up, and time kind of gets away from us, as is evidenced by the length of this podcast, which is about twice as long as my normal podcast. In addition, we recorded about another 45 minutes, and I guess as a result, you can probably expect to see another couple of podcasts from the two of us before the end of the summer. Now, two quick things I want to point out about this video. First off, yes, I am quite sunburned. Number two, there are some instances in this video where it looks like maybe I'm distracted or not paying attention to Dennis, and that's because I've got a pretty large monitor and I have the webcam mounted up on top. So to look like I'm actually looking at Dennis, I have to look about 8 inches above where his face is. Periodically during the video, I would look down to where his face is, and that makes it look like I'm not paying attention. It looks like I'm distracted, like I'm doing something on my computer screen or looking at some notes or something like that. But I was indeed paying attention to Dennis. So now you can pay attention to both of us, if you want. All right, here we are. We've got Dennis from Black Tie Kitchen. Hey, Dennis, how you doing today?
Pretty good, Steve. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Well, that's not entirely true. I'm kind of tired, but... But the good thing is we had talked last time about how we were going to switch off who sort of leads these podcasts, and it's your turn, so I don't have to be quite so on point.
Yes. The weird thing is, kind of the follow up with this, I don't even know what day it is anymore. Talking about being tired, is it Monday? I don't know. Is it Tuesday? Is it Sunday?
The only way I know what day it is most of the time is based on the work schedule of the other people in the house. So Connor works on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So I'm like, oh, if he's not here, it must be a Tuesday or a Wednesday. But since I'm recording videos generally, almost every day, or getting some footage, I do a lot of work on Saturdays and Sundays. That is not a weekend to me.
Prime time. Yeah. So kind of go into that. One thing I wanted to ask you is, you always talk about the hot dog bun. Why the fascination with the hot dog bun?
For two reasons, really, I think. And it's not so much a hot dog bun. Since I'm in Wisconsin, it's more of a bratwurst bun. Mm-hmm. But it goes back to, I think, early in my career. It's making this sound more important
when
than
I was younger, to lad.
Yes. Back in the early days of my YouTube thingy, I wasn't making really any sort of ad revenue money. About the only revenue stream I had was through Amazon links. And this was back when Amazon paid a decent commission before they cut their commission structure. So full disclosure, confession to my viewers, I kind of tried almost every video to find an ingredient or a kitchen gadget or something that I could use, that I could link to on Amazon so that people would go out and buy it and I would get a couple of dollars a month. And I had found this silicone mold for making candy bars. And I thought, wow, this is pretty much the same size as a hot dog bun. At some point, I ought to be able to make a hot dog bun using this mold. And I mentioned it. I made the mistake of mentioning it on that. It was sort of like that Hershey's Crackle. That's the one, right? With the Rice Krispies in it, the Hershey Crackle bar.
Yeah, yep.
Or the Nestle Crunch bar. But I used the protein puffs from Pro Mix Nutrition and some chocolate. And it was great. I was super proud of it. And I had this mold, and it was kind of expensive as a unitasker. So if people are just making candy bars with it, I felt it was going to be too expensive. So I threw out the whole, one day I'm going to make a hot dog bun with this. And then people just held me to it. I just started constantly, I started getting asked just all the time. And I would experiment. I would try some sort of recipe, and I would work through a few batches over the course of a week. I mean, you go through this whenever you do a recipe. How many batches of the pizza crust did you do?
No less than 35.
So you go through this and you hit a point where you're broken. You're like, I don't have it in me. I can't do it. And then you take a break for a couple of months, and then you come back and you give it another try. And I kept going through that cycle, but I never quite got it. And every couple of months, I'll get an idea like, oh, I bet this will work. It'll be 2 a.m. and I'll wake up and I'll grab my phone and I'll open up, Notepad or whatever it's called. What is it called? Reminders. Yeah, I'm not that fancy. So I just go in and I'm like, such and such, try this for a hot dog bun, because otherwise I'll forget. And right now, my idea, I tried out that Maria Emmerich's protein sparing Wonder Bread recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty good. It reminds me a smidge too much of angel food cake, just in the texture. I think it needs to be a hot dog bun. It needs a little bit more density. But I had made hamburger buns from it, and similarly for a hamburger, it would need a little bit more density. But just for like a ham and cheese sandwich with a little mayo, it worked nicely. But I think for a hot dog, again, or bratwurst especially, needs a little more density. And I think that's someplace I might be able to go. But that's what drove the hot dog bun. It was sort of
capitalism.
Capitalism followed by, I got too enthusiastic. And I do this a lot. Like, as I'm thinking of an idea, I'll throw out an idea. I'm just like brain fart throwing out an idea. And then people think like I've committed to it. Oh, we'll see that recipe on Friday.
So kind of on that line, do you have a list of things you want to try, and you just keep adding stuff to, like, okay, I'm going to do that next week. And you look at it again, like, oh, one, it's either probably near impossible. Two, nobody even knows what this is. Or three, like, something better is there's something better than this.
So yeah, I was just getting ready to try and open it. Unfortunately, both the icon for Pinnacle Studio 24 and for Microsoft Note are
very similar.
They're both that purple thing shade. So yeah, I have, oh my gosh, so many things here in OneNote. I've got a list from back when I started with the chaffle, like every potential chaffle idea that I could come up with that, ranges. I'm just going to rattle stuff off here, like peanut butter, cinnamon roll, oatmeal cookie, eggnog, ranch, carrot cake, hummus, avocado toast, a fried pickle chaffle, Monte Cristo, chicken quesadilla, buffalo chicken, cracked chicken, spinach Greek feta chicken, Philly cheesesteak. It just goes on and on. I think you have enough
for the channel called Chaffle.
Yeah, I could go forever. So I've got all these categories, different types of crackers I would like to do, things I would like to do in the corn dog maker. And then I also, back when Star Wars Episode 1 came out, you're like going to be like, how does this have anything to do with what you're about to talk about?
I can see where it could go.
All right. I, out on eBay, bid on a Walmart, basically Star Wars Episode 1 store kit. So like all of the artwork, balloons, everything they did to just deck out an entire Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I got was probably around 30,000 of these. These are the Walmart little like paper price things, that fit up under the shelf.
Price rollback.
With the Star Wars. Yes. So these are all my scrap paper pieces now. So I get them and I tear them, and then I've got a bunch of scrap paper. And then as I have notes at my desk,
mm-hmm.
I just, everything I come up with, from my daily task lists to ideas for recipes. And sometimes I'll write stuff down and I'm certain, I'll remember what that means. So I wrote down 1/2 cup butter, 1/2 cup almond butter, 1/2 cup coconut oil, chopped cashews, and 1/2 bag of chips.
What is that for?
It seems like something a stoner would write down. Like, hey, I got to go to the 7-Eleven or the Circle K. What should I pick up?
What did you buy? Well, they had butter, they had almond butter, the pecans, and chips. What's that show, Chopped, where they just get a basket full of random things and they got to make something with it?
Yeah. Some ball bearings and some 3-in-1 spray.
Uh, that's
So
hilarious.
yeah, how do you keep track of the things you want to work on?
Just have a long Excel list or Excel or Google spreadsheets, whatever. And I just add things on there, and I try to add quick notes about how I think it could be possible. Then it just keeps trickling down and down and down. Obviously before when I was doing a video a week, I got to things a lot faster. But now that it's once every 4 or 5 weeks, it's like, well, this one's on the back burner for maybe about a year and a half potentially. Like, which kind of leads me to my next question: is do you think that recreating non-low carb foods in a low carb fashion or keto fashion is beneficial or more harmful for others? And I said in a sense of, hey, here's a healthy drug, like here's healthy meth. Like, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, especially for people who could potentially have eating disorders and just don't recognize it because it's just all they know?
So I get accused of that from time to time from the more dogmatic keto folks.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you just need to toughen up and realize that all you should eat is beef and butter. And I don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
You get certain people that that like labeling and like labeling different types of keto. Oh, there's healthy keto, and then there's
Lazy,
bad keto and lazy, and then
the
there's
other one?
dirty.
Yeah.
And to me, the most important thing about a way of eating, and I prefer to think of keto as a way of eating rather than a diet. I think
lifestyle.
a diet is something you go on temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
And a way of eating becomes, yes, it's a lifestyle. This is something I intend to stick with. And if you intend to stick with something, it needs to accommodate the periodic cravings that you have. So things like pizza, for example, I love pizza. Now there are some things that I used to love that I've gotten past. I mean, I have no big desire for rice. I'm quite satisfied with riced cauliflower. I don't even have a big desire for pasta, which is surprising because I would think that would be something I would love. Pizza, still love. I still love a bready type thing. I still love a tortilla type thing. And if I can't have a low carb equivalent of that, at some point I think I break.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, okay, I can't, I'm done. And then once you fall, or at least if I fall off the wagon, I think I'm not getting back on.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether you call it good drug versus bad drug, to me, it's a necessity. It's a necessity to keep me on keto. So, and I think a lot of other people are like that. That's, some people need sweets. I don't really need sweets anymore. I'm past that. I don't crave that, but I'm not sure that I ever see a day where I don't want a tortilla or a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because on one hand, it's sort of you should learn to just eat clean, like eat meats and vegetables and that sort of thing, and sometimes having those recipes that impersonate non-low carb things could be a hindrance. Because, for example, like, oh, this is low carb. I know you've seen it where, oh, I can eat all the bacon I want. And granted, that's taken a lot of things in the one that are incorrect, but it's this sort of like, oh, this is low carb. This is perfectly healthy. I can eat as much of it as I want. And that's completely incorrect. But it's sort of like, hey, well, this is the healthy meth. I can have all of this that I want. It's like, no, you still need to taper what you're eating and do it correctly and kind of watch what you're eating.
But I think how much I want is a lot less now because I'm satiated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, if I'm eating straight up carbs, if I'm eating a bag of caramel corn, what I want is to never stop. If I'm eating Girl Scout cookies, how much I want is a box
or more.
But when I'm eating, when I'm eating beef, when I'm eating bacon, when I'm eating, this high fat stuff, I hit a point, like tonight for dinner, I did the cola braised short ribs recipe that I do. It's not, not real cola, but I had that, and I had some riced cauliflower that I mixed a little cream cheese in with. And I was shocked at how little I needed to eat before I felt satisfied. And once I felt satisfied, I was done. Uh,
Hmm.
Versus back when I was eating carbs, when I was done was when I hated myself. I mean, I ate till I was stuffed. That's how I knew I was done. I was physically on the edge of ill because I ate so much. And now I get the same amount of pleasure from eating, but it ends quicker because the pleasure ends once I'm satisfied. And I think that this argument that creating these low carb or keto alternatives to higher carb foods, I don't buy into the notion that that is some sort of a slippery slope that's going to lead you back. I think rather it's the safety net that keeps you from falling back.
Now, do you think there's a certain cognitive dissonance between eating something low carb that's a replacement for one of those foods and what that actually food is like? For example, French fries. Oh, this tastes like a French fry. And you have a real French fry, and you go, this tastes nothing like a French fry. But that low carb French fry satisfied that urge. Like, yes, this tastes like. Is it? Do you think it's like a memory thing? Do you think it's an emotional thing, where you go, oh, this fills that urge, but then you try a real one, and you go, oh, that was nothing like it. Like, just the consistency, the flavor, just all sorts of things that come into play.
No, I think there is an emotional aspect to our memories of certain foods, and I think the fry is a great example. I mean, I've made the Heavenly Fan fry, and I'm like, okay, this is fine. It's a delivery mechanism for whatever
Sausage.
substance you're dunking it into, ranch dressing, or low carb ketchup. But I've had fries. Periodically the family will get some fries. The other night they went to a gyros place. They got a bunch of gyros platters and fries, and I had a fry, and I'm like, okay, this is fine. I didn't feel like I needed to tear through an entire bag.
Hmm.
I seem to recall them tasting better. So yeah, I think there is an emotional component to it, and fortunately for me, it's turned out to be a case where whenever I've gone back and tried one of these things, with the exception of a real
Pizza.
quality pizza crust, um, they've all been not as good as I remembered.
Yeah, pizza's the one where it's a clear distinction. Like we can get close, but we're still galaxies away.
Yeah, the other night I made. So what I found when the family wants more or less spontaneous pizza, America's Test Kitchen has this 1 hour pizza crust that is pretty extraordinary, especially given the very limited amount of effort that needs to go into it. So I had that, and then I had a crust that was sent to me from a company that wanted me to review their crust. And while I'm waiting for mine to bake, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the stuff out on the counter that I made for the family. I'm like, all right, I'll have a little. But fortunately, I feel like I'm at a point where I can control myself. I can have a little and not feel like I need to rip through an entire pizza.
Hmm.
So I'll cut a corner off of one piece, and I'll have it. I'll be like, wow, that's really good. I wish I could replicate this in keto, but then I'm done because I prefer to stay fat adapted and stay in ketosis. But I forget where I'm going with this. Basically, pizza crust. Yeah,
It's still not
that's
attainable. We're getting there,
it's
but
there's yeah. Yeah.
kind of on that same vein, we see a lot of 2 ingredient, 4 minute recipes, 2 ingredient pizzas, 3 ingredient ice cream. What's your take on that?
I think well, first off, I get it. I see the attraction because people are busy and they like the idea of cooking a little, but not as much as they should.
Hmm.
Um, the problem is most of these things I feel, well, they never live up to the thumbnail. That's for sure. You see the picture of, the 2 ingredient 5 minute lasagna or something.
No cook, no bake.
And yes, instant. Yeah, About the closest I think you come is like these microwave mug breads or the microwave tortilla or something like that you can whip together a decent facsimile in fairly short order. But even like the microwave tortilla I did, that was like 5 ingredients or something. There's a little bit of work. I guess the cooking snob in me says either you want to cook or you don't want to cook. You probably get this on your channel too. You do a recipe and people are like, too much work,
Too many ingredients.
too much time, too many ingredients. Okay, well then microwave something. Go buy something frozen. Go to get something pre-made. That's the cooking snob in me. But the other part of me also understands, maybe you've got a lifestyle, you've got a job that doesn't support something like this. You're a truck driver and you need something that you can make in the cab of your truck. So I understand that different people have different
needs,
constraints in terms of what they can make. They still want to make something. They still want to, have that, from both a health standpoint and just that creative outlet, but they don't necessarily have the time or the pantry space or whatever. So I know how I feel about it, which is, to me, I love cooking, so it doesn't matter the number of ingredients or the amount of time, but I'm also not going to judge somebody who wants something easier.
And where do you draw the line? So my point of reference right now is I'm working on ice cream, and low carb keto ice cream presents an interesting issue because of the fact that there's no sugar in the structure that sugar adds and all that sorts of stuff.
Yep.
And I'm sure you know a little bit about this, about all the sorts of additives that you add to ice cream that increase the smoothness, the texture, that sort of stuff. And they can get expensive. It's one of those things of, okay, is this ice cream good enough? Like there's 2 ingredient, 5 minute, but you have to freeze for overnight type of thing. Good enough for what I want? Or do I take that extra step and spend that extra hour for this good quality, say Ben and Jerry's level ice cream? Like where do you draw the line? Like, do you find yourself doing one for when you're testing stuff and then the other is like, okay, I'm fine with this 5 minute subpar thing, but it'll quell that urge?
So part of the problem, you talked about the cost of ingredients, but very often these ingredients are a one-trick pony. The only place you're going to use it is this one recipe. And I had some of those early on my channel, the Oreo chaffle using black cocoa powder. I don't know what else you'd use black cocoa powder in. It's perfect for making an Oreo. I mean, it is the exact taste of an Oreo. But, you go and you spend $16 for a bag of this that you're going to use. It's a lifetime supply because the only time you're going to use it is the, Oreo chaffle.
It's like wasabi.
Yeah.
There's a 5-pound bag. Well, that's a lifetime purchase.
So there's that aspect of it. There have been recipes where I've worked on and perfected, and you kind of get going down a rabbit hole and don't realize how far you've gone until you get done and you step back and you start putting the recipe into Carb Manager or something. And you're like, no one's going to make this. This is just, I look at like the jicama chips that I did, the jicama potato chips, and the amount of work that goes into that. Oh, they're great. It was like potato chips, but the amount of work that goes into it, it really becomes more of a, can it be done rather than should it be done?
Now, do you think, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just, and what I've tried to get to a point on is, I used to have a guy that worked for me, and he would say, is the juice worth the squeeze? So is the amount of effort that you need to put into a recipe less than or more than the amount of enjoyment that you're going to get out of eating it? And I've had to temper some of my recipes accordingly. There is, like you said, there's the Steve cooking for his family version, and then there's the, what do I put in a YouTube video?
Then there's the mad scientist, like, this is not for anybody. This is, like you're saying, is this doable?
Can it be done?
Can it be done?
And, and sometimes once you figure out if it can be done, then you can start figuring out,
should it be done?
What are the steps? Well, what are the steps I can remove? I think about, when I used to teach statistical analysis, and you would do like multiple linear regression on something, and you'd find like, okay, if I use 9 different variables, I can be 97% accurate. But if I use 2 variables, I can still be 90% accurate. Is it good enough? Is it worth it to use all of these extra things, these extra ingredients, these extra utensils, the extra time to get me from 90 to 97% great?
Yeah. And yeah, like you're saying, those sorts of weird ingredients. Like I know recently I've been using a lot of glucomannan, or however you say it, that powder, which
I think it's
glucomannan, which
I don't know. No matter how I pronounce it, someone tells me I do it wrong.
The G stuff, which I kind of told you a little bit about, but we went down this long rabbit hole because much like you tried it and you had some issues with it. The batter was too wet with the French fries. Mm-hmm. The variance across brands is astronomical with that stuff. And that's a difficult thing to, let's say somebody spends $50 to get a small jar in whatever country they're in because it's expensive, then they get it and it's not the quality stuff or what you're looking for. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, here's this ingredient that
this is trash. This is on you now because, you made a bad recipe.
Well, exactly. So it's having that, those ingredients and stuff. Because I had to buy a rack to put all my ingredients on because it's like a science lab, and you can't expect anybody to have that unless you go down this lifestyle for an extended amount of time. But it is a fine line.
Yeah, and it's not like telling somebody to go out and buy some all-purpose flour. Both in terms of price and in terms of variability by brand. Mm-hmm. I've seen this like with psyllium husk powder. Sometimes psyllium husk powder turns your stuff purple. Sometimes it doesn't.
You make that, what's that purple? Is it Peruvian? The purple? No, the Filipino bread.
Oh, yeah. They had that in when I went to Hawaii. What is that called? I don't know.
But kind of along that, do you, and sort of the list that you have of ingredient or recipes and stuff, do you see an end to recipes or, I don't want to say desired or common, because I think at some point, I'm starting to see this with some channels, they kind of run out of things to do. And there's that line of, okay, so there's foods that we're familiar with, pizza, that sort of thing, but do you start exploring international foods that you potentially haven't tried? Because this is something I've come across as, hey, can you make X, Y, Z? And I go, no, because I've never tried it, so I don't know what I'm trying to replicate. I mean, you can try it, because I've seen this too with other recipe people like making pho, and it's like, well, that's not how you make pho. Like that's not even anywhere close, but you're claiming it is. Like, there's zero respect as you just, you passed off as this thing that it's clearly not. So what are your plans, at least in terms of that regard of maybe more international foods that are maybe not be as well known, and how do you think that's going to come across to your subscribers and your viewer base? And just for you, like how do you see that exploration going?
Well,
welcome to 2020.
One of my
60 minutes with
one of my favorite recipe sources is Milk Street Magazine. Mm-hmm. And that tends to be very international. I mean, just Chris Kimball is all about traveling around the world and, trying this from Israel and this from Istanbul and, this from Ethiopia. I think there are so many unexplored flavors that, just here in the US, we don't get around to. They're getting a lot more common because so many of these ingredients are starting to become more widely available. But I think that has a lot of potential. Mm-hmm. I think if someone just says, hey, listen, I'm willing to open myself up to a more international catalog of recipes, then I'm not going to run out, before I'm done making video, like before my career ends. Again, I keep calling it a career, like it's something. I hope it is.
It's a job. I mean, it's.
But yeah, it's my job. I suppose it is a career.
It's 2020. Embrace it. Be an influencer.
So I also find though that there are so many varieties you can make on just different types of recipes. Like you say, a cracker. Like how many different ways can you make a cracker? Mm-hmm. How many different ways can you make a tortilla? Every time I do something, like I do a tortilla, and this last one, I think it's the 4th tortilla recipe that I've done. I'm in danger of becoming Steve the tortilla guy, but you try it and almost immediately you get an idea for, what else could I do? So I don't know. I haven't felt a lot of anxiety about running out of potential recipes and ideas. And I guess I have nothing more clever to follow that up with. What about, I mean, do you feel that
Well, it's
as
not
you're
so,
making recipes?
it's not so much running out of ideas because I think that's bottomless, but the trying something that people would one be interested in and two make. Because like for example,
Hmm.
and this is not even a crazy international thing. I went down this long rabbit hole for 3-4 months helping my mom make macaroons for my sister, non low carb. So and it's a very simple dish, but no one's gonna make them. So it's like, do I go down this rabbit hole of exploring it in a low carb fashion and making them and trying to show people how the pitfalls are gonna hit, or it's just never gonna make them? And that's not even something that I tried. I was like, people need to taste. Like, I don't know when the last time you had something from a different country, or whatever. You go, this is incredible. This is something people need to know about, like a specific spice or something. And then you make a video about it, and nobody watches it. Nobody cares. Like, what is this? I can't find this ingredient, or this is too expensive. And it kind of goes back into that ingredient stuff of, I'm not going to buy this one ingredient that's $50 an ounce for one recipe. Say saffron, which I mean is stupid expensive.
Or fennel pollen. That's a great
all
one.
sorts of stuff. Yeah.
But I'm going to quick ask you a question. Then we should probably wrap up this podcast. Maybe we should record a couple back to back here, so that we've got one. We can
Part
release
two.
two in a row. Okay. But so to follow up that, then, what's more important to you, that people make your recipes or that people watch your videos?
That people find out about them, and that they find out that it's a possibility. That to me is I don't care if they make them or if they watch them, but that they learn that there's these great possibilities out there. I mean, that's one of the reasons I went down this route, because it's being around athletes and stuff and around fight camps and stuff. It's like, hey, I'm trying to cut weight, so I'm eating canned tuna and raw broccoli or some stupid shit like that. And it's like that really bothers me. It's like, you don't have to eat this lifeless, flavorless stuff just to meet your weight loss goals for the fight or whatever. Like, there's ways to eat healthier, and just bringing sort of the dishes of my childhood to people, like whether you eat it or not. Like, look, this is a possibility. Like, you can put cumin on pork and this makes it delicious. You can put cocoa on pork and it completely changes the flavor profile, makes it amazing. You don't have to have it in barbecue per se. So it's not so much I guess you could say it's really just trying to inspire people to try things with different ingredients. Whether they make the recipe or not doesn't matter, but getting that out in a way that people actually see it and take it for as inspiration for something. So if nobody's watching, then nobody's going to get inspired or get exploratory or intrigued, or just like, let's say you go to a restaurant, like, well, I don't know what this is, but having that idea, like, oh wait, I kind of know some of these ingredients. Let me try this. That's my take on it. Because you can come up with a bunch of Indian recipes, and how many people are going to look it up? Unless you're looking for that Indian food, no one's going to see it.
True. All right. Well, here's what I'm going to say. I don't know. Were you expecting like a more profound response?
I just feel like I poured my heart out. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting.
How can I make you feel better
Pizza.
right now, Dennis? All right.
I'm gonna send a pizza to your house. Fat Mike knows where you
All
live.
right. So I'm going to say let's put a bow on this episode, and then why don't we record the one from 2 weeks from now? Because I feel like we've got some momentum.
Yeah.
All right. So hey,
2.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week.